Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. The needles that pop the bubble. What survives? Let's explore. You're looking at what survives when the needle pops, the bubble. And it's not just one needle that we're worried about this time. You've heard of the term the everything bubble. Well, it's the everything that pops the bubble. That everything has a lot of needles. And we're going to talk a little bit about what some of those needles are, as we are living in unprecedented times for sure. Stuff that we've not seen before that's happening these days. It's very unpredictable as to how long some of these markets and some of these things can last. And we could see it go for quite some time. But regardless, the fundamentals of gold and silver, I think, are quite strong. There's a lot of different things going on right now, including the pandemic, that it was the black swan event of 2020 that caused silver to actually drop dramatically. It was a sell-off in the markets. Gold, but especially silver, went down to under $12 an ounce, and there was panic at the time. People didn't know, and there's a lot of this pandemic going around, which is a once in a century thing, and the market's a lot more complex these days. And when that happens, it's like, what, we don't know how to interpret all of this activity. Of course, what were people doing when silver prices dropped like crazy? There was panic in the paper markets and panic in the physical markets. People were buying up silver, and premiums were going sky high. Same thing with gold too, but on a smaller scale to a degree. But gold's price definitely dropped, but then it went up, and by this time last year, gold's price was at all-time highs in nominal dollars. And so on the world stage, we have inflation. We've got that's happening now in 2021, and some people think it could go out of control very quickly. The Fed's toolbox is getting quite empty and quite old and tired, and there's talk of tapering, bond yields, and all those things that are occurring. And then we have, commodities are surging, supply chains are interrupted because of COVID and other factors. Now the problem is not so much about the supply chain, it's about the jobs in order to move the supplies along. It's a very difficult situation we're in now. Then we have what's going on the geopolitical stage. Right now, as of the recording of this video, we have Afghanistan, that the Taliban has completely taken over the country. And how are we going to pay for this war? Well, we've been paying for it from borrowed dollars, and we're also borrowing dollars and spending them like crazy from the Fed's easy monetary policies, stimulus, debt increasing at an unprecedented rate. Those are some of the needles, and there's others too. But those needles that will pop, and what will survive, it will be gold and it will be silver. Very interesting times we are living in today. And so that is the message, is that gold and silver will protect us. And of course, at a time when there's growing demand for the physical metals, not only in terms of for those of us who use it to hedge and as a monetary metals, but also in terms of being utilized in the industrial sector and technology and as commodities. There's growing demand for it. Prices are relatively low now compared to what we've seen over the past year. And so it's an opportunity for some of us, including in the mining sector as well. We're going to be doing an interview here with Dr. Quinton Hennigh, who is the founder of Nova Resources, which is a company that went up 800%. He was a part of the discovery team of Kirkland Lake Gold, which is the biggest story in the past 10 years. He was an integral part of the success of Newfound Gold, which has gone up 1,000% since its IPO last August, and now he has joined the team of Blue Lagoon. So in this sponsored interview, we're going to be interviewing Dr. Quinton Hennigh. Welcome, Doctor. Glad to have you here.
Pleasure, Sal.
Yes, and so I have a couple of questions for you. There's a lot going on in the world today, as we know. There's been so many developments on the world stage with regards to inflation, peak globalization. Now we have the situation in Afghanistan. Commodities are surging, an unprecedented stimulus. Billionaire Stanley Druckenmiller says that this is the biggest bubble that we've seen in history. So, what are your thoughts about that?
I tend to agree with that. You look at valuations, what people are considering the norm at this point is way outside of the norm with respect to history. So, across the board, most commodities are at or near all-time highs. Yeah, there's been a bit of volatility here lately, but in general, the price is up for just about everything. Stocks, incredible, price earnings ratios and stuff that just have never been seen before. It's mind-boggling.
Those words right there, never been seen before, is something that's been consistent over the past year and a half or so. It's been something. You talked about commodities, and they're all up, but you know what? Gold and silver have pulled back some. When do you expect to see gold to hit new highs? We saw it go to over $2,000 last summer. In fact, right around this time last summer. When do you think we'll see these new highs for gold?
That's a really good question. I mean, I look back at history. History never repeats, but it rhymes, certainly. And I guess the best period I can think of that might emulate what we're seeing here is the 1970s. If you look at the 1970s, in fact, about 50 years ago to the day, Nixon took us off of decoupled the dollar from gold. Let's put it that way. It's nice and simple. So the dollar was free to float at that point, and guess what? Gold price in dollars quickly rose. Went from the fixed $35 an ounce. I guess in reality it's 42, but it rose from a fixed level up to I believe about $175 in a very short period of time. Now it settled back after that. Most people don't remember; they just think it was a straight line from 1971 to 1980 when gold finally peaked at $800 an ounce. But it actually was a bit of a roller coaster, just like we're seeing today. Gold, it did shoot up. It hit $2,000 an ounce roughly this time last year. It peaked and then it's come off. But I think we have several more years, probably the next 6 to 8 years. You're going to see a lot of things unfold. Just they have to, based on what's being done right now in terms of stimulus and the amount of debt that's piling up. Something's going to have to give. Okay, so I would say the next maybe 6 to 8 years, you're going to see volatility, but you are going to see an overall increase in the price of gold.
We very well may see multiple needles pop the bubble in that time. You mentioned spending and stimulus. We have now some legislation out there for infrastructure, both logistical infrastructure and human infrastructure that's been talked about now. Do you see any way that the U.S. can slow down spending?
If it wants to stick to the growth targets and so forth that the Fed, the government would like to see, I think it's going to be a challenge. I think that any cut in stimulus, any cuts in government spending is going to negatively impact the economy, like very, very rapidly. You can see right now, for example, what's happened since the most recent rounds of stimulus are starting to kind of work their way through, and money's becoming tighter very quickly, and it's having a very profound impact. Look at the sentiment that was published the other day, University of Michigan. Consumer sentiment just absolutely fell off a cliff in July. Why? Well, because people have spent that money, that easy money they were given, and now they're scratching their heads looking and asking what's next. And I think the answers are tough without government support.
That's true. It seems like people are getting addicted to it and getting used to this easy money policy and government spending for sure. Let's shift a little bit because, your story is fascinating. You've made a name for yourself in the gold sector, discovering and getting involved with some amazing companies. When did you first become fascinated with natural resources?
Actually, as a kid, I grew up partly here in Colorado. My grandparents lived not too far from the mountains. There's a lot of old gold mining camps up above our city here, Longmont, and I fell in love with gold and the thought of mining, and that you could pull something out of the ground of value when I was little. So I've been doing this for a long time. I actually started working in an as a miner underground when I was 16. Worked during the summers, during high school, and then on into college. I realized maybe geology's better fit for me, so I ended up working as a geologist through most of my undergraduate and graduate career. Then went on to mining.
Amazing. And I see on the shelf behind you back there are some examples of some ore that you have. That's really cool. That's neat. You know, if you have examples, right there by where you can touch and feel it, you know you love the stuff. So that's great.
Small part of a much bigger collection.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Recently, a company that you advise made a big investment into Blue Lagoon Resources. I wanted to know your chief reasons for making that call and how to plan to be active in the progress of this company.
Yeah, look, the group that I advise, Crescat Capital, they're here in Denver. It's a fund that has a dedication towards precious metal investing. Their macro thesis sees everything that we've been talking about for the past 5 minutes coming to fruition. So their focus, by and large, is investing in precious metal and in the discovery stage part of that cycle. So a lot of the companies that Crescat puts money into are early stage companies like Blue Lagoon. Okay, and look, Blue Lagoon has some various interesting prospects because on the one hand they have ability to develop a small mine, but that's not really the focus that attracted me. What attracted me was when I saw the style of geology, the type of deposit this was, and what I know about these systems, they should have great potential. The Blue Lagoon asset, Dome Mountain, is an unusual type of gold system. It's very, very high-grade veins. They have elevated base metals, particularly zinc in many places, and they're what we call carbonate base metal gold systems. There's a few of these deposits around the world. They're associated with a particular type of magma called a monzonite, magnetic rock called a monzonite. And when I see these, I get quite excited because I do know these can generate some very big systems. And they tend to have high grade. In fact, some of the first geology I experienced during my career was here in Colorado, was a camp that was very much like Dome Mountain, very high grade monzonite associated carbonate base metal gold system. So I feel very comfortable with this. I looked at the data. I felt that the team, had a very good handle on what to do for exploration. I am going to be working with their team somewhat too. In fact, I believe 2 days from now, Bill Cronk is coming here to Denver so we can meet and discuss the exploration strategy. But I think it's a phenomenal, unlocked, high-grade gold system. It was privately held for many years. Okay, this property was basically offline. It was not explored by several juniors before the Blue Mountain. It's truly just been brought online recently and has a very, very good high-grade potential.
Well, you may have partially answered my next question then, because it sounds like you as a geologist, looking at the data, looking at these sites, and considering your previous successes, when you look at Blue Lagoon, what past success story does it remind you of?
Yeah, look, there's several examples of this type of deposit around the world. Many of them are multi-million-ounce systems. I think Veridica in Colombia is probably the best example of what I think these guys are dealing with. Veridica is a high-grade vein system. I believe it's now in production. It was an exploration story for many years. Looking 10 years back, I think Continental Gold had the asset, and they were drilling many holes, hitting many, many veins, like a sheeted vein complex. And that what they did is they proved that the veins went to great depth, and that's one of the characteristics of these things. So I think Blue Lagoon could find the same trajectory. You know, as soon as they start exploring, drilling holes across these vein corridors, and hopefully hitting multiple high-grade veins in any given hole, you start to see that kind of a story evolve. I think 5 years from now, you'll see that the company's sitting on a multi-million-ounce deposit, much like Veridica.
Finally, what is the most beneficial thing Blue Lagoon can do to take its market cap higher?
You know, there's a lot of small production stories out there. Most of them don't get a whole lot of traction in the market for various reasons, but exploration stories do. What really excites the market, what really is needed in the gold mining sector are discoveries, in particular discoveries that are large and high grade. You know, things that are going to be desired by major mining companies, desired for acquisition. And I think that exploration is going to be what drives Blue Lagoon forward from here.
Very good, and that makes sense. And it sounds like Dome Mountain has a lot of potential for sure. So, well, Doctor, I very much appreciate you taking the time here to talk with us here. And for those who want more information, I will post a link in the description below to Blue Lagoon Resources website. I encourage you to always do your own due diligence and research, ask them questions, and check out their profile. It's a fascinating company. And I would like to extend a multitude of gratitude, Dr. Quinton Hennigh, and also to you for taking the time to watch this video, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.